striving for enduring peace and progress in Mindanao. I acknowledge that today's session centers on the normalization process. However, I respectfully believe that understanding the background of the GPS and ILP's process is crucial before we explore normalization. This background offers essential context and justification for this vital stage of peace building. The GPS and ILP's process developed from a decades of armed conflict stemming from historical grievances, marginalization, and the quest for self-determination among the Bangsamoro people. The Comprehensive Agreement on the Bangsamoro or CAB signifies a shared commitment to move from armed struggle to a peaceful and inclusive society. Central to this transition is normalization, which emphasizes secure, productive, and inclusive communities, as well as socio-economic reintegration. Fully appreciating the goals and challenges of normalization and its importance in achieving lasting peace in the Bangsamoro region requires an understanding of the historical and political context underpinning the peace process. A series of incidents in the southern Philippines in the late 1960s led to the birth of the Moro separatist movement. For instance, the most well-known incident was the Jabida massacre on Corregidor Island, in which 28 young Muslim military trainees were killed in two batches from February to March 1968. The struggle of the Moro people predates the Jabida massacre and other similar historical atrocities. This struggle is rooted in the Bangsamoro people's ongoing fight for self-determination and freedom from what historians label as Filipino neo-colonialism. The Bangsamoro have long maintained that Spain did not colonize their homeland, and they argue that it was unlawfully annexed by the Philippines following the U.S. occupation that began in 1898. During this American control of the Philippines, Moro communities in Mindanao faced marginalization due to discriminatory government policies that severely impacted their identity and birthplace. The Bangsamoro's pursuit of self-governance resulted in armed conflicts with the Philippine government forces and Moro fighters. This situation has led to a mutually hurting stalemate, meaning neither side can achieve a decisive military victory. The violent cannot overcome the government through transitional warfare, and likewise, the Philippine government is unable to defeat the violent militarily as the group can employ lethal guerrilla tactics. The conflict resulted in the deaths of 150,000 people, including government security forces, drained resources for both sides, and compelled residents to leave their homes to escape the violence. Additionally, domestic and international stakeholders, such as key figures, civil society organizations, and non-government organizations, urged the Philippine government and the Moro revolutionary factions to seek a peaceful resolution to the armed struggle. There was a common understanding, especially the Philippine government, that the armed struggle was caused by poverty, while the prevalence of underdeveloped and impoverished communities in Bangsamoro is a severe problem that needs to be resolved. It is not because of the armed conflict. The armed struggle in Mindanao stems from injustices faced by the Bangsamoro people, including their denial of genuine self-governance and the weight of historical grievances. His Eminence Orlando B. Cardinal Quevedo, OMI, an notable Filipino cardinal and a peace advocate, outlined the fundamental causes of this struggle in three key areas: injustice to the Moro identity, injustice to their political sovereignty, and injustice to their integral development. With the assistance of back channels and reliable emissaries, the Philippine government and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front agreed to enter peace talks in 1997. This highlighted the understanding that the persistent grievances of the Bangsamoro people needed to be addressed through dialogue and mutual understanding rather than through conflict. However, simply agreeing to negotiate for peace is insufficient. It is essential for the involved parties to create a framework that will steer the peace discussions, outline the agenda, and pinpoint the desired outcome. The initial year of peace negotiation between the Philippine government and MILF focused on determining the agenda, especially tackling the question of how to solve the Bangsamoro problem. The Bangsamoro problem involved numerous social, cultural, economic, and political concerns that were enumerated by the MILF in a 9-point list. Number 1, ancestor domain. Number 2, displaced and landless Bangsamoro. 3, destruction of properties and war victims. 4, human rights issues. 5, social and cultural discrimination. 6, corruption of the mind and the moral fiber. 7, economic inequities and widespread poverty. 8, exploitation of natural resources. And number 9, agrarian reform. Crucially, the MILF expressed the desire to create a system of life and governance that meets the needs and is acceptable to the Bangsamoro people. This means that, in the MILF's view, the main objective of the peace process is to form a self-governing political entity for the Bangsamoro, ensuring the right to self-determination. Clearly stating this goal at the outset of the peace negotiation was a vital as it influenced the direction of the discussion. Major agreements that shaped the peace process. The first significant step was the agreement on the cessation of hostilities in July 1997, a crucial effort to declare a ceasefire between the MILF and government forces to pave the way for constructive negotiation. This was followed by the agreement of intent in 1998, setting in unmistakable terms the parties' desire to pursue a principled and peaceful resolution to the decades-long conflict. Over the years, several landmark agreements were forged, each building on the trust and progress achieved in earlier negotiations. First, the Tripoli Agreement on Peace in 2001 set the stage for discussions on substantive issues including autonomy, governance, security, and economic development. Number 2, the agreement on the 10 decision points on principles provide the framework for establishing a political entity that would embody the aspirations of the Bangsamoro people. Number 3, the framework agreement on the Bangsamoro marked a breakthrough in 2012. It outlined the roadmap to a new autonomous political entity, the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. The FAB was accompanied by key annexes on power sharing, wealth sharing, transitional arrangement, normalization, and Bangsamoro and zones of joint cooperations. These efforts culminated in the signing of the comprehensive agreement on the Bangsamoro on March 27, 2014. The GAP is the cornerstone of this, representing the collective sacrifices and aspirations of all stakeholders. It serves as the key in solving the so-called Bangsamoro problem, which requires both parties to faithfully implement. For the information of the Honorable Senator, we have compiled the agreements from 1997 up to 2010 to 2016, 2016 to 2020. Meron po akong hindi na kumpal po. Yung po, I think almost 200 agreements po.
Opo.
200. Ganun karami.
So let's proceed to the elements of normalization process. And I think this is the focus of the question of the Honorable Senator.
Pabasay.
The peace process involves more than just political agreements. It is focused on changing the lives of communities and individuals impacted by the conflict. Normalization process plays a crucial role in this transformation, emphasizing the importance of security, justice, and development in the Bangsamoro region. The process is guided by a comprehensive structure that brings together the chief executive and other key stakeholders. Normalization is composed of 8 critical components. First, setting up of normalization mechanism. We have the Joint Normalization Committee, we have the Joint Peace and Security Committee, we have the Joint Peace and Security Team. Number 2, because there are 8 elements, please take note that normalization is made up of 8 deliverable components. So number 2, confidence building measures. Under confidence building measures, amnesty and pardon. We will explain this later. And then comes transformation to convert former MLN camps into peaceful, productive communities. Number 2, a socio-economic package for the Commission combatants to aid their integration. All in all, Your Honor, including the 100,000 cash, it's amounting to 950,000, including 100,000 cash and 650 housing unit for their combatant. We'll explain later. Then, number 4, policing. We need to establish a policing under a Bangsamoro framework to ensure safety and security. Number 5, we have the commissioning of a Mali weapons and combatant, a symbol of a commitment to peace, which shall be implemented parallel and commensurate to the implementation of all agreement of the parties. Meaning, at least the 8 deliverables have to travel forward parallel and commensurate with each other. So we will explain later that's not parallel, it's not commensurate. Then, the MLF is the commissioning its MLF weapons and combatant, but there is a need to disband private armed groups in Mindanao. Wala kami armas, pagkatapos ang dami-daming armas na nahawag ng mga iba't ibang grupos sa Mindanao. Kasama ko yung mga kasama yung mga politician, dami kong iba't armas. Number 7 po, Transitional Justice and Reconciliation Program to address historical injustices and kill communities. Ito po yung pag-establish po ng National Transitional Justice and Reconciliation Commission for the Bangsamoro po. Meron po batas sa lower house, I think mga 3 o 4, sa Senado po may 3. Meron po, if I remember it right, na nag-file po kayo ng isang batas, creating that Transitional Justice Commission. And then number 8, redeployment of government troops to ensure a balance of security and autonomy. So these are the 8 deliverables that have to be delivered by both the government and the MLF. A closer look reveals that these elements complement each other. For example, socio-economic intervention will likely succeed if a security situation improves. Additionally, faith in the decommissioning process will diminish if illegal private armed groups continue to exist. Therefore, no single component can be executed in isolation. All must be addressed simultaneously. The structure of the chief executive peace process or peace process infrastructure. To clarify, this process infrastructure encompasses the official and informal systems and mechanisms that facilitate the peace process, particularly during negotiation. Over the years, the peace process between the Philippine government and the MLF has evolved in response to the needs, commitments, and deliverables outlined in the agreement signed by both parties. In the initial phase of the peace process, referred to as the domestic phase, the infrastructure consisted of negotiating partners and their technical committees focused on 1, agenda setting, and 2, cessation of hostilities. This hybrid framework provided the Philippine government and the MILF with a clear communication channel and a collaborative platform. However, trust and confidence between the Philippine government and the MILF remained fragile in the early years of negotiation. As a result, this infrastructure faced significant stress due to interrupted talks, disagreements among negotiating panels, and ongoing armed conflict. The government waged 3 all-out wars against the MILF in 2000, in 2003, and 2008. Not to mention the Mama Sapalo incident in 2015. In response to the ongoing challenges, the parties recognized the need to enhance and broaden the infrastructure of the peace process to ensure negotiations continue smoothly. An essential aspect of this expansion involves the participation of international actors who serve as facilitators, advisors, monitors, or resource individuals. For instance, in 2001, following the Philippine government's cessation of its all-out war policy against MILF, Malaysia was designated as the third-party facilitator, mainly at the instance of the Philippine government. Your Honor, in 2000 there was a war waged against the MILF, but when President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo took over as the President of the Philippines after the exit of President Joseph Estrada, the first foreign trip of then President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo was to visit Kuala Lumpur and requested the Malaysian government to act as the facilitator of the government and the MILF peace process. The facilitator's role is to steer the peace talks and foster an environment where the Philippine government and the MILF can effectively address key issues, resolve disagreements, and formalize necessary agreements. The ceasefire agreement has also broadened. Initiating a ceasefire served as the initial challenge for the peace negotiations as armed conflicts between the government military and the MILF were rampant at the start of the discussion. Despite the reservations and mistrust, the negotiating teams recognized that the climate affected by constant violence hindered the peace process. The ceasefire was initially enforced and overseen by the Joint Coordinating Committee on the Cessation of Hostilities, which included representatives from both the Philippine government and the MILF. On May 6, 2002, the parties created the Ad hoc Joint Action Group to also prevent any criminal elements that might escape from MILF areas and jeopardize the ceasefire. However, after significant armed clashes in 2003 led to a suspension of negotiation, the ceasefire mechanism was enhanced by incorporating the International Monitoring Team. The International Monitoring's role is to oversee the implementation of the ceasefire while also dealing with humanitarian efforts, civil protection, and socio-economic initiatives in regions affected by the conflict. The IMT, International Monitoring Team, is led by Malaysian military personnel, supported by officers from Brunei, Libya, Indonesia, and Norway, as well as similar experts from Japan and the European Union. The peace negotiations proceeded with fewer disruptions, thanks to a reinforced ceasefire mechanism. After more than a decade of on and off talks, the government and the MILF announced in July 2008 that they reached an agreement to expand the autonomous Moro region in Mindanao and address Bangsamoro's right to self-determination. A proposed memorandum of agreement on a sister domain for MOA-AD called for a Bangsamoro juridical entity with its own basic law and its system of banking and finance, civil service, education, and legislative and electoral institutions, and complete authority to develop and use natural resources. However, the Philippine Supreme Court prevented the parties from formally signing the final draft in August 2008 after it issued a temporary restraining order in favor of opposing local government officials from Mindanao and national politicians. The ruling of the Supreme Court led to a breakdown in peace negotiations and renewed violence, but by what the Philippine government described as rogue and violent leadership. The collapse of the peace talks due to the MOA edit and the ensuing hostilities necessitated improvements in the peace process to prevent a similar incident. With the help of the Malaysian facilitator, the International Contact Group, and backchannelling efforts by non-government entities, the MILF issued 5 conditions for the resumption of the peace talks after the all-out war. 1. International guarantee for parties compliant. 2. Resolution of the MOA-80 debacle. 3. Revival of the international monitoring team. 4. Cease operations of armed forces of the Philippines. And 5. Malaysia to remain as a third-party facilitator. The government responded by agreeing to most of the demand, thus allowing the peace negotiation to proceed. For the number 1, more international actors became part of the peace process infrastructure. The International Contact Group mediates between the parties and applies appropriate leverage to facilitate discussion. The International Contact Group comprises Saudi Arabia, Japan, United Kingdom, and Turkey as state members, as well as Conciliation Resources, the Asia Foundation, Muhammadiyah, and the Center for Humanitarian Dialogue as members. Eventually, the Asia Foundation was replaced by the Community of St. Egidio. Furthermore, the United States Institute of Peace, or USIP, was considered at one point but did not push through. The peace process infrastructure continues to develop even after the comprehensive agreement on the Bangsamoro. While the implementation phase of the Philippine government peace process shall be a separate topic, let me briefly mention the other peace mechanisms added after 2014. Under the normalization process, we have the Joint Normalization Committee, we have the number 2 Joint Peace and Security Committee, we have Joint Peace and Security Team, we have Transitional Justice and Reconciliation Commission with Switzerland as chair, the Independent Commission on Policing involving technical advisors from Canada and Japan. Number 6, Independent Decommissioning Body with Turkey as chair, Norway as co-chair, and Brunei and Japan as members. Number 7, Joint Task Force on Decommission Commandant and their communities. Number 8, Task Force on Transformation. And number 9, Bangsamoro Normalization Trust Fund, wherein the World Bank served as a fund manager. Other mechanisms include the third-party monitoring team, which comprises international and local non-government organizations. The third-party monitoring team monitors and evaluates commitment by both parties under the comprehensive agreement on the Bangsamoro. Its reports objectively assess progress, highlighting achievements and identifying challenges regarding the exit agreement. It immediately certifies whether both parties have met their obligation, ensuring compliance and enforcing trust and mutual accountability as the peace process nears its final phase. Finally, the Philippine government and the MILF have significantly partnerships with multilateral groupings of states such as the European Union and the Organization of Islamic Conference, the United Nations attached agencies such as the UNDP, IOM, the UNICEF, and many others. The absence of this process infrastructure and its protocol would greatly hinder the MILF's ability to collaborate with the Philippine government, a former adversary. However, the established peace process task forces and mechanisms have fostered an environment conducive to discussing and resolving crucial issues such as security, development, and sister domain, and the future rules of the Bangsamoro government. Additionally, these arrangements enable various sectors and stakeholders, including both international and local partners, to engage and participate in the peace process. While each task force and mechanism has distinct mandates and terms of reference, they all collaborate to safeguard the peace negotiations and ultimately realize the peace agreement. The road ahead. The establishment of the BARM, guided by the Bangsamoro Organic Law, is a testament to what can be achieved through dialogue and collaboration. However, challenges remain, including socio-economic disparities, issues of justice, and the need to strengthen governance. As I conclude my presentation, let me emphasize the key principles that underscore the significance of the peace process and our shared responsibility to secure its success. First, the process of decommissioning remains a pivotal aspect of normalization. It is imperative to remember that decommissioning is parallel and commensurate, moving in step with the other commitments outlined in our agreement. The balance ensures that both sides fulfill their obligations equitably, fostering trust and confidence. Alongside the decommission of combatants, equal efforts must focus on the disbandment of private armed groups and managing small arms and light vehicles to prevent a security vacuum and facilitate a stable transition. At this stage, it is critical also to complete the provision of socio-economic packages of decommissioned combatants from phase 1 to phase 3 before advancing to phase 4. This step is not just a procedural necessity, but a moral and practical imperative to ensure that commitments made to those who have taken steps forward are fully honored. This comprehensive approach ensures that all parties fulfill their obligations equitably, fostering trust and confidence as well as sustainable peace. Second, the exit agreement. The signing of the exit agreement is not just a procedural milestone, but a critical affirmation of the peace process completion. It symbolizes the fulfillment of mutual commitments and transitioning into a sustainable, peaceful future. Reaching this stage requires unwavering commitment and continued collaboration between all parties. The signing of the exit agreement takes place after the transition period and during the regional government, after an election to members of parliament are held, and after all agreements of the parties are fully implemented. This can be substantial, can be comfortable to the environment, because full implementation is almost impossible. Just substantial implementation is not on the part of the environment. Third, the International Monitoring Team has played a crucial role in the history of the peace process. Acting as a trusted partner, the International Monitoring Team offered vital support by fostering confidence and maintaining peace and security within our communities. Their unbiased oversight addresses concerns and strengthens mutual accountability. Therefore, reinstating the IMT would bolster its critical function as a confidence-building measure, ensuring that the peace process is inclusive, credible, and aligned with its objective. Number 4, the International Contact Group plays a relevant role even during the implementation phase. Their expertise and facilitation have been instrumental in bringing gaps and maintaining the integrity of the agreement. Their presence underscores the international community's steadfast support for this process. Number 5, the recommendations of the Transitional Justice and Reconciliation Commission serve as a roadmap for addressing historical grievances of the Bangsamoro people. These recommendations remind us that true peace requires confronting the root causes of the conflict, securing justice, fostering reconciliation, and building trust among communities. The main milestone is for the government to pass a law creating a commission called the Transitional Justice and Reconciliation Commission for the Bangsamoro. 6, the transformation of former violent camps into peaceful and productive communities is a vital aspect of normalization. This process ensures these areas become hubs of opportunity and development, fostering stability and laying the groundwork for a lasting peace. Establishing the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao is a key milestone in the peace process. Yet, it's just one step in the ongoing journey toward lasting peace and development. While BARM institutionalizes political and governance structure from peace agreement genuine progress depends on sustained effort to tackle root of the conflicts like historical injustices, marginalization, and underdevelopment. Achieving this requires inclusive governance, building trust among communities, ensuring fair resource access, and encouraging reconciliation. Full implementation of the Bangsamoro Organic Law, capacity building for the Bang government, and stakeholder collaboration are crucial to addressing the Bangsamoro people's social, economic, and cultural needs. Thus, while BARM offers a vital platform, ongoing commitment is essential for long-term success in the peace process. More importantly, the national government, through the President, has generous supervision over the BARM, should allow the Bangsamoro people to freely choose their leaders and run their affairs within the prescription of the law. Finally, the peace process requires us to dismiss unilateral action. The agreements must be implemented through mutual, joint, and bilateral efforts. This principle guarantees that both parties act as co-owners of the process, collaborating to forge a future grounded in shared responsibility, integrity, and respect. I am very grateful to Senator Honorable Ruben Padilla and the esteemed Senate Committee on Muslim Affairs for allowing the Board Islamic Federation Forum to speak on the peace process. I want to highlight the importance of the Senate's support in preserving these peace initiatives again. Achieving ends is not responsibility of just one sector of growth. It requires a collective effort and unwavering commitment from all Bangsamoro and Filipinos. As the Holy Quran reminds us, and I quote, and make peace among yourselves and obey Allah and His Messenger if you are believers. Surah Al-Anfal. As we move forward, let us remain steadfast in upholding the spirit of the peace agreement and honor the trust placed on us by the Bangsamoro people. Thank you, and may Allah guide us in this noble endeavor. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Maraming salamat po, aming Minister Iqbal. Napakaganda po ng inyong presentation. Nagbubulungan po kami dito ng aking COS dahil nung huling ating hearing dun sa Cotabato, tinatanong po ni Senator Win Gatchalian, sabi niya, bakit pa gusto mong gawing Moro probinsya? Ano ba ang historical niya? Hindi natin naipaliwanag doon. Ngayon po, naipaliwanag nyo ng buong buo. Kaya hihigit po sana namin yung kopya po ng inyong presentation at i-forward po namin kay Senator Ruben Gatchalian. Ngayon po, moving forward, gusto ko po munang balikan. Kasi doon po sa tanong po, parang nasagot na po lahat ng Minister Iqbal. Gusto ko lang pong tanongin lang ngayon dahil nandito naman yung nasa amnesty. Attorney Mary Ann Armado. Okay. Sila dalawa. Saka si Deputy Speaker Lanang Ali Jr. Ano yung po? Meron lang po kapapasalan. Meron kami binigyan ng amnesty at pinamahan ng Presidente. Kasama po ba yung ating mga kapatid na MIL doon?
Good morning, Senator. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to be able to brief you about the status of amnesty. As of now, we are still in the process of submitting our applications, and so far we have already submitted around 200 applicants coming from both MILF and MNLF. Ang problema po dito ay medyo matagal yung process. Nagpirmahan natin ang peace agreement in 2014, and up to now ay wala pa rin po tayong amnesty. So yung mga kasama namin, even in the mga members of the parliament who are mga field commanders, they are carrying safe conduct pass. At ito po yung ginagamit nila kasi up to now, hindi pa rin talaga normal yung kanilang buhay dahil they are still, at the eyes of the law, ay may mga warrant of arrest pa sila. At nakakalabas lang sila because the OPAP issues a safe conduct pass, but they are always at a risk of harassment, of intimidation, of threat, of being arrested. In fact, yung mga mayors natin who were recently appointed doon sa special geographic areas, nag-conduct sila ng seminar para doon sa budgeting process nila bilang mga bagong appointed na mga mayors. They were also carrying safe conduct pass. Yung hotel mismo ay ni-raid ng mga elements of the NBI. So, very uncertain yung situation ng mga MILF members, commanders, and including MNLF without the amnesty. So, kung pag-usapan ng normalization, dito po natin masusukat yung normal na ba ang buhay ngayon. Meron na nga sila, mga members sila ng parliament, but they are always at the mercy
10 years na,
of
sir.
the government and the local authorities dahil wala po silang hindi pa nagbibigay sa kanila yung amnesty. Under the guidelines ay dapat kung under the implementing rules and regulation of the amnesty ay upon submission of the application, yung National Amnesty Commission is supposed to issue yung safe conduct pass na para hindi na sila, while in process yung application, hindi na sila mag-threaten na makaulihin pa o i-arrest. So, pero up to now, ay hindi pa rin. Kahit nagkasubmit na ng application, hindi pa rin naka-issue rin ng safe conduct pass yung mga National Amnesty Commission. So kung usapin po ng normalization, this is far from normal. Nasa very uncertain situation pa rin yung ating mga members of the MILF who have already fully submitted and committed in the peace process. Ganun po, Senator.
Maraming salamat po. Noted po, ma'am.
Attorney.
Deputy Speaker, Larang Anin po.
In addition to that, Senator, dahil po doon sa opening statement ng ating Honorable Chairman, medyo po sa umpisa ay mabagal ang usad ng usaping amnesty. Sa kadahilanan po, kami po sa MILF ay meron po tayong sinusunod na peace agreement, ang comprehensive agreement ng Bangsamoro. Meron pong proseso ng amnesty ang nabanggit po doon. Sa una, titignan po natin kung yung pong amnesty na ini-implement po ngayon ay alinsunod po ba doon sa amnesty na sinabi sa ating CAP agreement. Yun po ang pinag-aralan muna ng ating peace implementing panel ng MILF. Napag-alaman po namin na hindi po totally alinsunod doon sa napagkasunduan dahil itong amnesty na binigay ng national government ay pasok po lahat ng grupo, ang MNLF at ibang mga secessionist groups sa Pilipinas na kung saan ang ating CAP ay nagbabanggit lang po na amnesty para po sa Moro Islamic Liberation Front. Yun ang una. Kaya po medyo nagkaroon po ng medyo mabagal na kapusat pero napagkasunduan po namin na kaysa mahuli, kaysa walang mga amnesty na MILF, ay mag-proceed tayo kahit paano. So, nag-create po ang MILF ng small group or technical working group para po magkaroon ng pag-aaral para sa mga amnesty na MILF. Napagkasunduan po namin na unahin po muna yung mga nabilang kong MILF. Ang una namin pinuntahan last month, few months ago, ay yung mga kasamahan namin sa Bagong Diwa, sa Taguig. Doon po kami nagsimula. Then pumunta po kami sa Muntinlupa para po kunin at i-apply yung mga kasamang MILF doon na nakakulong. Pumunta na rin po kami sa Davao, sa mga penal colony sa Davao. Pumunta na rin po kami sa Zamboanga Peninsula, including yung penal colony sa Zamboanga City. At nakasunod po sa aming pupuntahan ay ang sa Lanao, sa Iligan City. Napuntahan na po namin yung sa Sarangani, sa South Cotabato at sa North Cotabato, sa Amas, Kinapawan. Yung lahat po ng MILF na nakakulong dahil po sila po ay naghihintay na po ng magkaroon ng amnesty na mahirap po ang kalagayan sa loob ng kulungan. Isusunod po namin na kukunin ng mga pangalan ay yung mga MILF na may kaso sa korte ng may warrant of arrest at kasama rin po sila sa dapat na mabigyan ng amnesty. Pero inuna lang po namin yung mga nakakulong dahil mahirap po yung kalagayan at sila po ay naghihintay simula nung napirmahan ng peace agreement 2014. Sila po ay patuloy na nagtatanong sa amin kung saan na po ba itong amnesty nito. Kami po, sampu na aking mga kasamahan sa MILF Amnesty ay umaasa at kami po ay nagsabit na rin ng pangalan. At kahit po na aking kasamahan sa Tony Marian Hernando, nagsabit na po tayo ng pangalan. Naghihintay pa rin po kami ng magandang balita at sana as soon as possible po ay mag-grant ito dahil magkaroon na pong bigyan na po ng amnesty. Kahit pa paano, yung mga leader muna, Senator, yung mga leader muna ng kasama ng mga MP, no, mga high profile na sinasabi namin, yung mga MP namin, marami po sa mga MP namin ang may warrant of arrest, may kaso, kahit sila po muna ang as part of confidence building measures, mabigyan mo yung mga kasama nating MPs and mga high profile commanders ng amnesty dahil nasa third phase na po tayo ng decommissioning. More than thousands na po na decommission na MILF, take note po, pero hanggang ngayon ay wala pa po nabigyan ng amnesty na MILF. So hanggang dito na po, Senator, maraming salamat. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Klaruhin ko lang po. Magmula po noong 2014 hanggang ngayon, wala pa pong nabigyan ng amnesty. Wala pa.
Yun sir ang issue. Yes sir.
Senator, wala pa po kahit isang nabigyan ng amnesty.
Na topic
Kaya that is really overdue.
Bangsamoro Forum na
Ngayon,
pag-usapan.
umikot na kami, inuna namin yung mga nakakulong kasi doon sila umaasa na merong, especially yung mga matatanda na gusto sana namin kahit yun lang silang mauna, baka sabihin nila ang MILF nasa bar na, may nasa gobyerno na sila, nakalimutan na sila doon. So, inuuna talaga namin sila. Pero even that ay wala pa rin, even for humanitarian consideration, hindi pa rin sila nabibigyan ng amnesty. Secondly, itong mga commanders din natin ay syempre kasi sumasama na tayo sa democratic process, ay nag-file na rin sila ng mga candidacy for the local election kasi this is part of the democratic process na transitions. Pero they're also under threat. Hindi rin sila masyadong nakakampanya openly because they also have existing warrants. So this really curtails the movement and freedom of the MILF members who have already submitted to the peace agreement.
Noted po. Meron po kasi akong nabanggit kanina, naalala ko po yan na diniliberate namin sa floor, hanggang sa napirmahan. Ito po yung presidential proclamation. Ito po yun, ayun. Okay. Ito po nung nangyari ito nung 24th ng July 2023. Ito po, nag-file po si Senator Jinggoy Estrada. Concurrent resolution concurring with proclamation number 406 of the President of the Republic of the Philippines dated November 22, 2023, entitled Granting Amnesty to Members of the Moro National Liberation Front who have committed Menalefton.
Yes, sir.
Nasaan yung sa MILF? Ito yung sinasabi nila. Nasasama sila.
Sir, ay ilang MPs?
House resolution.
Ilang MPs may warrant?
16. Concurrent resolution.
Okay po. Ito po yung kasama nun. Magkasabay po
Ilang
sila.
MPs may warrant?
Ay, ibaba nyo nga. Hindi ako sanay sa computer. Pakibaba nyo nga yan. Hindi. Yan po, ito po. Concurrent resolution concurring with proclamation number 405 of the President of the Republic of the Philippines dated November 22, 2023, entitled Granting Amnesty to Members of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front who have committed crimes punishable under the revised penal code and special penal laws in furtherance of their political beliefs. Ano po nangyari po dito, ma'am?
Senator, na yun po yung proclamation 405 granting amnesty to the members of the MILF, and then concurred na rin yan ng Senate and ang Congress. Pero the process po after that is individually you have to apply. Hindi po ito blanket
Apo.
na amnesty na lahat na ng general amnesty,
Kasama.
lahat kasama na.
So, ano po yun?
Everyone, each applicant
Person.
ay dapat na may kaso, kailangan mag-apply ka.
Nagawa na po yun.
Nag-apply na po kami. Meron na kaming mga 200.
Kailan po yan, ma'am?
Naka-apply na tayo.
Pwede po humingi ng kopya niya?
Application.
Submit
Applications.
na natin sa National Amnesty Commission.
Pwede po ba kami
Copy.
We can give you the list po para for your copy.
Opo.
Yes.
Para maano po natin yan.
As of now, sir, we have already submitted 176 applicants sa National Amnesty Commission. So total po niyan ay 343 lahat kasi pati MNLF ay nag-submit din po sila.
May status na po yan. Ano pong status niya?
Yung pinapollow up namin halos everyday sa kanila kasi maraming mga applicants naghihintay pero in process pa rin po
Sige
yung
po,
sinasabi nila.
kami na po magpa-follow up, pahingi po ng kopya.
Thank you, sir.
Opo, para maano po tayo dyan sa amnesty. Alam niyo, yan ang isang dapat natin. Minsan, umaasa yung tao, akala natin yun na, hindi pa pala.
May dagdag, sir, si Sir Iqbal, sir.
Chief Minister, Minister Iqbal.
One very difficult challenge na ma-identify namin yung kakuha ng mga may kaso. Dahil sa mga kaso na file sa mga membro ng MILF, pero tinatawag na yung dos. Maybe that's
John Doe, Opo.
Ibig sabihin walang pangalan.
Opo.
So that's the difficulty na identify namin kung sino may mga kaso. Of course, yung mga napangalanan, walang problema daw kasi klaro-klaro yun. Pero yung mga jumpers, hindi namin alam yun. Anyone can be included in that list. But maybe organizer can also with the permission of the chair.
Opo, Ma'am Mr. Atty. Raisa.
Good morning again, Senator. Well, as exactly described po ni Mr. Iqbal, meron po either John Doe's or meron lang alias na napaka-common na mga pangalan niya, alias Abdul. And then, may mga instances po kasi na hindi talaga identifiable. Ang legal standard should be kung may John Doe ka man, dahil hindi talaga identify yung pangalan, meron konting description that would allow you to zero in on some specific person. Hindi yung kahit kailan ay pwedeng maipataw yung pagiging John Doe dun sa iba. So yun po yung medyo problematic sa amin. Wala naman po kasing database ang DOJ to give to us na sino-sino po ba ang mga may warrants of arrest na based sa information mag-deduce mo na MILF. Not even that. So yung kinukwento po nila na pumupunta sa bawat kulungan, baka kailangan din po natin pumunta sa bawat korte just to get more information as to the pending cases. And even with that, yun nga po, kahit may kaso, pero kung may John Doe or may alias something, we don't even know kung sino po yung mga kasama din sa kaso na yun. Pwede mag-apply na sana ng amnesty. So yun po yung kaya medyo maliit yung number na 176 because we don't have a complete picture of who have ending warrants against them and who may be qualified to apply.
Maraming salamat po. Mag-suspend lang po ako ng 1 minute lang.
Sure.